bodies turned to glass. Pakistan, Sindh Province, 1922. Indian archaeologist Rakhaldas Bandyopadhyay digs where no one expected to find anything significant. Desert, hills of fired brick. Locals call the place the Mound of the Dead. Mohenjo-Daro in the Sindhi language. No one remembers where the name came from. Old men say their grandfathers said, their great-grandfathers too. This place has always been cursed. Livestock aren't grazed there. Children don't play. At night, sounds are heard that have no explanation. Bandyopadhyay doesn't believe in superstition. He's a scientist. He sees hills of regular shape, too regular for nature. Starts digging. After a few weeks, understands this isn't hills. These are ruins. Massive, ancient, buried under millennia of dust and sand. Streets 10 meters wide, laid out in a grid like a modern city. Houses of fired brick, 2 stories, some 3 stories. Sewage systems, drains, public baths. A city that shouldn't exist 4,500 years ago. Official chronology says, in the 3rd millennium before our era, humanity was only learning to build the first civilizations. Sumer in Mesopotamia, Egypt with pyramids not yet all constructed, Europe wild, tribes of hunters and gatherers. India should be the same. But here, a city. Not a village, not a settlement. A city with a population estimated later at 40 to 80,000 people. Larger than most European capitals of that time. Thoughtful planning. Engineering at a level Europe would only reach 3,000 years later. Bandyopadhyay continues excavations. They find artifacts, seals with images of animals and unknown writing, ceramics, jewelry, tools. Everything points to developed culture, trade, social organization. But there's strangeness. No palaces, no temples, at least none obvious. In Egypt, pyramids dominate. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats. Here, nothing similar. Houses approximately the same size, no apparent hierarchy. As if society was egalitarian or concealed its elite differently. The finds attract attention. The British Archaeological Service, controlling India, sends John Marshall, Director General. Marshall organizes systematic excavations. In a few years, they uncover a second city, 300 kilometers north, Harappa. Then a third, a fourth. An entire civilization, unknown to history, stretching across more than 1 million square kilometers. The Indus Valley. A civilization they'll call Indus or Harappan. One of 4 cradles of humanity, alongside Mesopotamia, Egypt, China. But Mohenjo-Daro remains the largest, most mysterious, and most cursed. Because the deeper they dig, the more questions arise. The more they find, the less they understand. And there's a layer, the lowest, where archaeologists find what doesn't fit any theory. Skeletons scattered through streets, as if people died suddenly, instantly. Not from disease, not from hunger. Their bodies preserved in poses speaking of panic, of attempts to flee, to hide. Some holding hands, parents covering children. Death overtook them so quickly, there wasn't even time to scream. Marshall tries to explain. Maybe epidemic, plague, cholera. But epidemics don't kill instantly. People are sick for days, weeks. Here, everyone died in one moment, or a very short time period. Flooding. The Indus overflows, floods the city. But bodies are found not in a layer of silt, but on streets, in houses, on upper floors. Water doesn't explain this. Earthquake. The region is seismically active, possible, but buildings aren't catastrophically destroyed. Walls stand, roofs collapsed in places, but not totally. And skeletons aren't under rubble, but in open spaces, as if they were running not from collapse, but from something outside, from something falling from the sky. War. Someone attacked, killed everyone. But there's no weapons near the bodies. No signs of resistance, barricades, fortifications. No mass burials of enemies. The city simply died. All inhabitants simultaneously. And after this, no one returned. The city remained abandoned, untouched, slowly buried by sand for 4,500 years. One of the strangest finds is described in reports from 1927. A group of workers digging in the northeastern part of the city discovers an area where the earth is fused. Not fired brick, not clay hardened by fire. Earth turned to glass. Black, bubbly, resembling obsidian but with different composition. Geologists study samples, reach a conclusion. Such melting requires temperatures around 1,500 degrees, possibly higher. What can create such temperature? A volcano. But the nearest volcano is hundreds of kilometers away, and it hasn't erupted in historical time. Forest fire. Wood burns at around 800 degrees. Not enough. Even burning coal, which is unlikely in such quantity, the temperature is below what's needed. Lightning. A lightning strike can locally melt sand, create fulgurite. But here the area of fused earth is about 50 square meters. Lightning doesn't explain this. Reports become classified. Unofficially, they simply stop publishing details. Scientific journals mention the find in passing, explain it with pottery kilns operating at high temperatures. But kilns are local, room-sized. Here, earth is melted across dozens of meters and located not near residential houses, but in the center of an open square. There's another detail they whisper about among archaeologists, but don't write in official reports. Skeletons in this square have damage not explained by natural causes. Bones partially melted. Not charred, as in a fire, melted, as if subjected to extreme heat for a short time. Some skulls cracked from inside, as if the brain boiled instantly, created pressure, ruptured bone tissue. One British pathologist studying the remains in 1932 wrote in a private letter to a colleague, "What I saw resembles damage to victims of Hiroshima. But this is impossible. These people died 4,000 years ago." The letter was never officially published. A copy surfaced in Cambridge University archives in the 1990s. The researcher who found it tried to publish, but the journal refused, citing insufficient verification of the source. The letter exists, but the author is dead. Verification impossible. Subject closed. But if we suppose the pathologist wasn't mistaken, wasn't exaggerating, wasn't fantasizing, then what? What could create an effect similar to nuclear explosion 4,500 years ago? Official science says nothing. Nuclear weapons invented in 1945. Before this, humanity didn't possess technologies for splitting the atom. Therefore, the pathologist was mistaken, saw what wasn't there or interpreted incorrectly. But there are other testimonies scattered through ancient texts that make you think. The Mahabharata, Indian epic recorded, by various estimates, between 800 and 400 BCE, but describing events that, as traditions claim, occurred millennia earlier. In it are passages describing weapons of the gods, Brahmastra, Pashupatastra, Divine arrows that destroy armies, burn cities, poison the earth for generations. One description is particularly disturbing. Ashwatthama, a warrior, uses Brahmastra against the Pandava army. The text states, "It shone like 1,000 suns launched into the sky, scorched the enemies." Warriors upon whom the weapon fell dropped like trees consumed by fire. Their bodies charred beyond recognition. Survivors lost hair, nails fell off, they vomited. Food became poison. The land upon which the weapon fell remained cursed. Nothing grew there for 7 generations. Modern readers see allegory in this, poetic exaggeration, but if read literally, if we imagine the author described what he actually saw or heard from oral histories passed down, the symptoms match radiation poisoning. Hair loss, nails, nausea, inability to eat, death in agony, contaminated earth for long years. Coincidence, perhaps, but there are many texts. The Ramayana, another epic, describes flying machines, vimanas that carry weapons capable of destroying entire cities. Description of vimanas is detailed. Dimensions, materials, engines working on mercury, creating vortex flows allowing machines to rise, move in any direction. Modern engineers tried reconstructing vimanas from descriptions. Nothing flies. But what if the description is incomplete, metaphorical, requiring a key for interpretation? Let's return to Mohenjo-Daro. The city died suddenly around 1900 BCE, plus or minus 100 years. Dating is approximate. At the same time, plus or minus several centuries, the entire Indus civilization collapses. Cities abandoned, trade ceases, writing disappears, population scatters. India enters a dark period, from which it will emerge only after 1,000 years with the arrival of Vedic culture and formation of classical Hinduism. What happened? Standard theory: climate change. The Indus changed course. Floods, droughts. Agriculture suffered. Cities couldn't feed the population. People migrated. Civilization degraded, broke into small tribes. Typical collapse scenario for ancient societies. But Mohenjo-Daro doesn't look like a city that died from hunger or drought. No mass burials, emaciated bodies. No signs of prolonged siege, lack of resources. The city simply emptied. And suddenly, as if all residents one day left or died in very short time. There's a theory, less popular but explaining more. War. Not ordinary war between tribes with swords and spears. War using technologies we don't associate with that time. War described in the Mahabharata not as myth, but as real historical event, distorted by time and oral transmission. Imagine, 4,500 years ago, the Indus civilization isn't the only developed culture. There are others, perhaps less known to us because their traces are completely erased or not yet found. Between them, conflict. Resources, territory, ideology, religion, doesn't matter. Conflict escalates. Ordinary weapons insufficient. One side develops or finds something more powerful. Perhaps doesn't invent, but rediscovers, using knowledge transmitted from an even more ancient civilization. They apply this weapon. One strike on Mohenjo-Daro, possibly several strikes on other cities. Effect: catastrophic. Cities destroyed, population perished or fled, earth contaminated. The enemy defeated, but the victors also suffer. Perhaps the weapon is uncontrollable, perhaps a counterstrike. Their civilization also collapses. Both sides fall. Survivors degrade, lose technologies, start over. Memory preserved as legends. War of gods, divine weapons, flying chariots. Through millennia, stories turn into myths, myths into epics, epics into sacred texts. The core of truth buried under layers of interpretations. But it's there. Sounds fantastic, but let's consider facts without prejudice. Melted earth requires extreme temperatures. Bones damaged, as described, require exposure ordinary fire doesn't create. Sudden death of many people simultaneously requires catastrophe of massive scale, instantaneous. Descriptions in ancient texts coincide with effects of nuclear weapons, though authors couldn't have known about them. Either this is a series of incredible coincidences, or something really happened. Something official history prefers not to consider because it destroys the linear model of progress. We're used to thinking humanity moved from simple to complex. Stone Age, Bronze, Iron, Industrial, Information. Each step higher than the previous. Regression possible locally, but globally the trend is upward. But what if it's not so? What if history is cyclical? Civilizations rise, reach heights, destroy themselves, fall. Survivors start again. After a millennium, new civilization, new rise, new catastrophe. The cycle repeats. Traces of previous cycles erased by time, erosion, cataclysms. Only fragments remain. Megaliths we can't explain, texts that sound like fantasy, finds that don't fit chronology. Mohenjo-Daro is one such fragment. A city that shouldn't exist in the form it existed. A civilization that was too advanced for its time. A death too strange for natural causes. There's another aspect rarely discussed outside narrow academic circles: radiation. In 1992, a group of Italian researchers working with the Pakistani Archaeological Department conducted a series of measurements on Mohenjo-Daro territory. They used modern dosimeters, scanned different sections of the city, especially those where melted structures and skeletons with unusual damage were found. Results showed elevated radiation levels. Not dangerous for short-term presence, but anomalous. Above background values for the region by approximately 3 to 4 times. Locally, in certain points, even higher. Official explanation: natural uranium deposits in the soil. The region has complex geology, possibly radioactive minerals present. But distribution of anomalies is strange. They're uneven, as would be expected from natural deposits. They concentrate in the city center, especially on that square where Earth is fused, as if the epicenter was there and radiation dispersed from center to periphery. A pattern characteristic of an explosion, not geological processes. The Italians planned to publish a detailed report, conducted preliminary presentation at a conference in Karachi. Reaction was restrained. Pakistani authorities expressed concern that publication might harm tourism, create panic among local population, asked to postpone publication until additional verification. The Italians agreed. Additional checks conducted. New results showed the same anomalies, but by that time, project funding ended. The group returned to Italy. The full report was never published. Brief mentions appeared in several specialized journals, but without detailed analysis. One team member, geologist Enrico Vincenti, later said in an interview with a small scientific publication, "We found what we shouldn't have found. Radiation levels, distribution, character of damage on samples. All this pointed to an event modern science cannot explain in the context of 4,500 years ago." I'm not saying it was nuclear weapons, I'm just saying the data doesn't match natural processes. The interview, published in 2003 in a small circulation Italian journal. Not translated to English, not indexed in academic databases. Most researchers of Indus civilization don't know about it. Now let's look at the city's archaeology in more detail. Mohenjo-Daro, built from fired brick. This is unique. Most ancient cities used unfired brick, sun-dried. It's cheaper, simpler to produce, but less durable. Fired brick requires kilns, fuel, time, costs. It's used for important buildings, temples, palaces, fortifications. But in Mohenjo-Daro, practically all buildings are of fired brick. Even ordinary residential houses, even sewage drains. Why such costs? Standard explanation: the region is prone to flooding. The Indus overflows regularly. Fired brick better resists water, doesn't get soggy, doesn't crumble. Logical. But there's a nuance. Analysis of bricks shows they were fired at very high temperature, around 1100 to 1200 degrees. This is higher than needed for standard ceramics of that time. Why such temperature? It makes brick stronger, but also more expensive, requires more fuel. If the goal is simply protection from water, 800 to 900 degrees is sufficient. Possible explanation. Builders knew something we don't account for. Maybe they built not only defending against water, but against something else. Maybe high firing temperature gave bricks properties we don't understand. Or, more disturbing, maybe bricks weren't fired in kilns, but by something else. An event that heated the entire city, sintered bricks in place, creating the illusion of intentional firing. There are supporters of this theory. They point to uneven firing. Some bricks fired perfectly, others partially. Third have cracks, bubbles, deformations that arise from too rapid heating. As if temperature was uncontrolled, too high, too sudden. Official archaeologists reject this, say unevenness is explained by primitive kilns, uneven heat distribution, human errors. Over hundreds of years of city construction, different masters used different techniques. Quality varied, all normal, nothing anomalous. But skepticism persists, especially when you consider other finds. Glass artifacts. Not tableware, not jewelry, pieces of glass found among ruins. Irregular shape, cloudy, with inclusions. Analysis shows this is not intentionally manufactured glass. This is sand or clay melted at extreme temperature, then rapidly cooled. In the ancient world, glass was produced, but the technology was complex, required special furnaces, and glass was valuable, used for jewelry, vessels. Here, glass is unwanted. It just lies there, part of destroyed structures, as if a byproduct of catastrophe. Another detail: skeletons. They found 44. Few for a city with population of tens of thousands. Where are the rest? Maybe most managed to leave the city before catastrophe? Maybe there was warning? Earthquakes often preceded by tremors. Animals behave anxiously. People evacuate. But if this is an earthquake, why aren't buildings more severely destroyed? Alternative: most perished outside the city, fled, but didn't make it, or died later from consequences, from illness caused by something that happened in the city. Their bodies not found because they decomposed completely, weren't preserved, or buried somewhere else in places we haven't excavated. The 44 skeletons found are in poses speaking of suddenness. One skeleton, known as Mother and Child, shows a woman sitting, covering a small body. Another, a man lying face down, arms extended, as if trying to crawl somewhere. A group of 5 skeletons, adults and children, lie nearby, touching each other. A family that perished together. Pathological examination conducted in the 1930s showed death came quickly. No signs of disease, emaciation, weapon trauma. Bones intact, except for those damages that may be post-mortem from soil pressure. But soft tissues, of course, weren't preserved. What exactly killed these people is impossible to determine by bones alone. However, there's strangeness. Some bones have color not white or beige, as usual with ancient remains. They're dark, almost black in some places. Analysis showed elevated carbon content, as if bones partially charred. But not completely, as in cremation. Partially, superficially, as if subjected to brief exposure to strong heat. One British archaeologist, Mortimer Wheeler, who led excavations in the 1940s, proposed military invasion. He found several skeletons with damage he interpreted as weapon wounds. Advanced a theory. Aryan tribes migrating to India from the north attacked cities of the Indus civilization, destroyed them, annihilated the population. The theory became popular, fit into the narrative of Aryan migration, explaining the appearance of Vedic culture. But later, criticism intensified. Damage on bones turned out ambiguous. Could be wounds, could be post-mortem from pressure, erosion. No mass burials, no weapons near bodies, no fortifications destroyed by assault. The city doesn't look like a battlefield. Wheeler's theory, rejected by most modern scholars. Now, consensus. The Indus civilization fell not from military invasion, but from ecological and climatic changes. Slow collapse stretched over centuries, not dramatic catastrophe. But Mohenjo-Daro doesn't fit this scenario. The city died suddenly. This is visible in archaeological layers. No gradual decline, no period when people abandoned homes, construction ceased, the city overgrew. There's a functioning city, then ruins. The transition is sharp. Maybe an earthquake after all. One big, catastrophic one. But seismologists studied the region, analyzed tectonic activity, geological records. No signs of mega-earthquake at the right time. The region is active, but not extremely. Nothing that would explain complete destruction of the city in a short period. Flooding. The Indus changed course. Possibly catastrophic flood submerged the city, killed inhabitants. But topography doesn't support this. The city built on elevation specifically to avoid flooding. The sewage system is advanced, designed to divert large volumes of water. And again, bodies aren't in silt, not in sediment layers. They're on streets, in houses, on surfaces that were dry during death. Fire. Large urban fire. But wood in the region is scarce. Houses are stone, brick. Roofs could be wooden, but not enough to cause a firestorm destroying the entire city. And fire traces aren't everywhere. Locally, yes, but not globally. Epidemic. Plague, cholera, smallpox, kills quickly, especially in dense city. But epidemics leave mass burials, hasty, disorderly. Where are they? And epidemic doesn't explain melted earth, elevated radiation, charred bones. Each natural explanation has gaps. None explains the entire set of facts. which leaves two options. Either we're missing something, some natural process we don't understand, or the event was unnatural, man-made, or, stranger still, non-human. Let's consider a third possibility that official science doesn't even examine: extraterrestrial intervention. Sounds like science fiction. But if we discard prejudices, look at facts, the parallels are interesting. Mohenjo-Daro, destroyed instantly by extreme heat, possibly radiation. At the same time, ancient texts describe weapons of gods, flying machines, wars in the heavens. Gods in ancient cultures are often described as coming from the sky, possessing technologies that seem like magic. What if this isn't metaphor? What if the ancients described what they saw? Beings or machines arriving from outside, interfering in human affairs? The ancient astronaut theory, popularized by Erich von Däniken, proposes aliens visited Earth in antiquity, interacted with early civilizations, transmitted knowledge, possibly manipulated genetically. Critics fairly point out there's no direct evidence. Artifacts von Däniken cites are explained otherwise. The ancients were inventive, created impressive structures without alien help. But some questions remain. Pumapunku in Bolivia, megalithic complex with stone blocks weighing up to 130 tons, processed with incredible precision. Baalbek in Lebanon, trilithon of blocks 800 tons each, built into a Roman temple, but clearly more ancient. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, temple complex dating to 11th–9th millennium BCE, 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, built by hunter-gatherers who, it was thought, lacked organization for such projects. Each of these sites raises questions, and Mohenjo-Daro adds its own. If ancient astronauts existed, if they interfered, could they also punish? Destroy civilizations that didn't follow their rules, threatened their plans? The Bible describes destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah by fire and sulfur falling from the sky. Lot's wife turned back, saw the destruction, turned into a pillar of salt. Literally or metaphorically? If literally, what could turn a person into salt? Or maybe she was struck by something that crystallized her body, and the description distorted through generations. Mohenjo-Daro could be the Sodom of Indus civilization, a city destroyed for some sin, real or perceived. Weapon falls from sky, incinerates the city, leaves radiation. Inhabitants perish instantly. Survivors flee, tell stories that become legends. Through millennia, legends recorded as the Mahabharata, Ramayana, other epics. Of course, this is speculation. No direct evidence of alien intervention, but no evidence against either. And when all natural explanations are insufficient, unnatural ones begin to look less absurd. There's another aspect of Mohenjo-Daro rarely discussed: writing. The Indus civilization had writing, hundreds of seals, tablets with symbols found in excavations, short inscriptions, usually 5 to 10 symbols, used for trade, marking goods, possibly religious purposes. Problem: no one can read them. For 100 years since discovery, many linguists, cryptographers, computer algorithms tried deciphering the script, unsuccessfully. The language is unknown. No bilingual texts, no Rosetta Stone for Indus writing. About 400 to 500 symbols, too many for an alphabet, too few for a hieroglyphic system, possibly logographic or syllabic system, but without context, impossible to determine. Some researchers suggest the language was Proto-Dravidian, related to modern South Indian languages like Tamil, Telugu. Others think Indo-Aryan, ancestor of Sanskrit. Third believe isolated language, not connected to any known family, extinct without descendants. But there's a stranger theory. What if the writing isn't linguistic? What if symbols don't represent sounds or words, but something else? Mathematical formulas, chemical compounds, technological schematics. What if the Indus civilization used writing not for communication in the ordinary sense, but for recording knowledge requiring precision, symbolic notation? This idea is supported by few. Most linguists reject it. Say symbols behave like language. There are patterns, repetition, structure characteristic of written speech. But what if this is coincidence? What if the writing's creators intentionally made it resemble language to hide true meaning? One researcher, Subhash Kak, Indian computer scientist and historian of science, suggested some symbols of Indus writing may represent astronomical concepts. He found correlations between symbols and positions of stars, planets in ancient astronomical systems. His work met with skepticism, but not completely refuted. What if decipherment fails because we approach it wrongly? Trying to read as text when it's not text. It's code, diagram, map of something we don't understand. And perhaps the key to decipherment lies not in linguistics, but in physics, mathematics, astronomy. Let's return to the city itself. Mohenjo-Daro's layout is geometrically perfect. Streets intersect at right angles, forming a grid. Main arteries about 10 meters wide. Secondary, narrower, but still wide enough for 2 carts. Orientation, north-south, east-west, with minimal deviation. Such precision requires not just planning, but geodetic knowledge, instruments for measuring angles, directions. Modern archaeologists assume builders used sun and stars for orientation, ropes and stakes for marking. Possibly. But the precision is surprising, especially for a city built gradually over centuries. Usually, old cities are organic. Streets curve, expand chaotically. Each generation adds without following general plan. Mohenjo-Daro, as if designed in advance entirely, then built according to blueprint. In the western part of the city, an elevation archaeologists named the Citadel. There are the largest public buildings, the Great Bath, a pool 12 by 7 meters, depth 2.5 meters, bottom and walls lined with fired brick, joints sealed with bitumen for waterproofing. Stairs on both sides lead into water. Surrounded by colonnade, rooms, possibly for changing or rituals. Purpose of the Great Bath is debatable. Some consider it a ritual pool for religious ablutions, similar to Hindu ghats on the Ganges. Others suggest public bath, place of social interaction. Third, think practical structure for water storage during droughts. But size, construction quality, location in Citadel Center indicate this was important. Resources invested in construction are enormous. Simple water storage wouldn't require such detail. This was something central to culture. Possibly religious, possibly scientific. There's a theory, less known. What if the Great Bath was used not for ablutions, but for something else? Water has properties the ancients may have known and used. It conducts electricity, reflects light, resonates at certain frequencies. What if the pool was part of technology we don't recognize? Near the Great Bath is a structure called the granary. Large building with thick walls, internal chambers, ventilation channels. Initially, archaeologists thought it truly was grain storage, a barn for public supplies. But later, doubts appeared. No traces of grain, husks, nothing organic. Floors too high quality, too clean for a room where bulk products were stored. Alternative explanation: administrative building, palace of rulers, meeting place. But again, no signs of luxury, decorations usually associated with palaces. Everything functional, ascetic. Third idea: this was a repository of knowledge. Library, archive. Ancient texts on tablets, scrolls requiring protected, dry space. Ventilation channels ensured air circulation, prevented mold. Thick walls protected from temperature fluctuations, moisture, possibly from fire. If so, where are the texts? Organic materials decomposed over millennia.
Papyrus, palm leaves, leather, fabric. Nothing survives in Sin's climate that long. Clay tablets could, but they weren't found. Maybe they were taken before catastrophe. Maybe destroyed in the event that ruined the city. Maybe we simply haven't excavated the right place. There's another structure in the citadel that raises questions. Assembly hall or pillared hall. Large open space surrounded by columns, possibly roofed. Size allows hundreds of people. Purpose unclear. Market, religious ceremonies, political assemblies, court, all possible. But there's a detail. In the hall's center, a depression in the floor, round, about 1 meter in diameter, lined with brick. Purpose unknown. Too small for a pool, too large for a pillar. Some suggest altar, place for fire, sacrifices. Others think foundation for a statue, totem. But what if it was something technological? Ancient cultures used sound, resonance in rituals. Large rooms with specific acoustics create effects that influence human psyche. Infrasonic frequencies cause feelings of fear, awe, presence of something greater. Greek theaters, Gothic cathedrals, Native American kivas, all designed with acoustics in mind. What if Mohenjo-Daro's assembly hall was an acoustic device? The depression in center could contain a resonator, drum, gong, something producing sound of specific frequency. Columns, walls, reflected sound, amplified it, created effect that impacted those gathered. Not for manipulation, not necessarily, but for creating a state conducive to meditation, trance, collective experience. The ancients knew more about sound than we think. Yoga uses mantras, repetitive sounds to alter states of consciousness. Tibetan monks use singing bowls, creating vibrations affecting body, mind. Shamans worldwide use drums, rattles, chanting to enter trance. The Indus civilization could have similar practices, and the assembly hall could be the place where these practices were conducted collectively.
Hundreds of people gathered together, impacted by synchronized sound, light, possibly aromas, substances. An experience creating social bond, religious experiences, or something else. Now let's descend into the lower city, residential quarters. Houses 2-story, rarely 3-story, built of fired brick. Layout standard. Internal courtyard, rooms around it, staircase to upper floors. Windows face the courtyard, not the street. Streets see only blank walls with single door. This creates privacy, protection from dust, noise, heat. Each house has bathroom, toilet connected to sewage system. This is unique. Even in the Roman Empire, 2,500 years after Mohenjo-Daro, not all houses had private toilets. Most people used public latrines. Here, each family has its own facilities. Sewage is advanced. Covered channels under streets collect waste from houses, lead to settling tanks, then beyond city limits. Manholes for inspection and cleaning positioned regularly. System designed with slope to ensure flow without stagnation. Engineering at a level European cities would only reach in the 19th century. Why such care about sanitation? Practically, of course, preventing disease, odors, maintaining cleanliness. But the level of attention indicates society valued health, comfort, possibly had knowledge about the connection between filth and disease, which we associate with germ theory appearing only in the 19th century. Or, more interesting, sanitation was part of religious practice. Many ancient religions link physical cleanliness with spiritual purity. Judaism, Hinduism, Zoroastrianism all have rituals of washing, purification. Maybe Mohenjo-Daro's inhabitants followed similar beliefs. Clean city pleasing to gods, filth defilement. If so, the catastrophe that destroyed the city could be perceived by survivors as divine punishment. Despite all efforts to be clean, righteous, the gods still destroyed them. For what? Maybe for something we don't see in the ruins. Maybe for hubris. For attempting to achieve too much, know too much, rise too high. A theme repeating in myths worldwide. The Tower of Babel, built by people to reach the heavens, destroyed by God who mixed languages, scattered peoples. Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, punished with eternal torment. Icarus, who flew too close to the sun, fell into the sea. Hubris is punished. Boundaries must be observed. What if the Indus civilization violated boundaries, reached knowledge, technologies the gods, or someone else, considered forbidden, and was destroyed as a warning? Not just Mohenjo-Daro, the entire civilization. Hundreds of cities, millions of people. Collapse so complete that even writing disappeared, was forgotten. This happened with other civilizations. The Minoan civilization on Crete vanished around 1600 BCE after the eruption of Santorini volcano and possibly Mycenaean invasion. Linear A script still undeciphered. The Maya of the Classic period, whose cities were abandoned in the 8th to 10th centuries CE, reasons not fully clear. Angkor in Cambodia, a vast empire leaving temple complexes, then vanishing, swallowed by jungle. Civilizations are fragile. They depend on multiple factors: climate, resources, social stability, trade, technology. When several factors disrupted simultaneously, collapse can be swift, complete. People scatter, knowledge lost, cities crumble. After a few generations, descendants don't remember how ancestors lived. Only legends remain, distorted, fantastic. Mohenjo-Daro became one such legend. The Mound of the Dead, a place where gods punished the proud, where earth is cursed, where ghosts wander mourning lost grandeur. Local inhabitants avoided this place for millennia, not knowing why, following instinct transmitted through generations. Archaeology brought the city back from oblivion. But questions remain. The main question: what exactly happened? And why can't we answer with certainty, having all the tools of modern science? Maybe because we seek natural explanations, when the event was unnatural. Maybe because we reject possibilities that seem fantastic, not because they're impossible, but because they contradict our worldview. Science is built on assumptions. One of the main ones: laws of nature are unchanging. What happened in the past can be explained by the same laws working now. This is uniformitarianism, the principle underlying geology, paleontology, archaeology. And it works most of the time. But what if there were events that don't follow ordinary laws? Not violating them, but using aspects of reality we don't understand. Ancient texts speak of siddhas, yogis who achieved control over matter,
energy, time. They could fly, become invisible, create illusions, destroy enemies by force of thought. We reject this as myths. But what if these are descriptions of technologies so advanced they seemed like magic? Arthur C. Clarke, writer, science fiction author, and scientist, formulated 3 laws. The third states, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. If a civilization is 1,000 years ahead of us, its technologies will seem like magic to us. If 1,000,000 years ahead, we won't even recognize technology when we see it. We'll take it for natural phenomenon, religious artifact, anything except what it is. Mohenjo-Daro may be a place where advanced technology was used. Not necessarily alien, maybe human but lost, maybe terrestrial but non-human, maybe something else. There are finds that don't fit. In 1927, they found a small bronze statuette in Mohenjo-Daro. A girl, dancing, naked, with bracelets on arms and legs, necklace around neck. Pose relaxed, confident, almost defiant. Style realistic, proportions correct, detailing high. This statuette, called the Dancing Girl, became an icon of Indus civilization. But there's strangeness. Bronze analysis shows unusual composition. Copper, tin as expected, but also small amounts of other elements. Nickel, zinc, traces of arsenic. The ratio indicates an alloy requiring precise temperature control, understanding of metallurgy at high level. Bronze invented about 5,000 years ago. Alloy of copper and tin simple if you know proportions, but adding other elements to change properties, color, strength, plasticity, requires experiments, knowledge. This is a level of metallurgy usually associated with later periods. But an even stranger find was made in 1936. A small object of bronze, about 5 centimeters long. Shape resembles an arrow or pointer. At one end, a point. At the other, flat expansion with a hole, as if for attachment. Surface smooth, polished. Purpose unknown. One archaeologist suggested sewing needle or decorative pin. But the size is strange. Shape impractical for sewing. Another thought it's part of a mechanism, a cog from some device, but no other parts found. The object was sent for analysis. Results showed bronze has a microstructure that usually arises from pressure processing, forging, then annealing. This is a technique requiring understanding of how metal behaves when heated and cooled. Medieval blacksmiths knew this empirically. The Indus civilization apparently also. But on the object's surface under microscope, lines are visible. Too even, too parallel for manual processing, as if cut by machine. Of course, there were no machines 4,500 years ago. Therefore, either the analysis is wrong, or our assumptions are incorrect. The object returned to the museum collection, where it lies to this day, catalogued but unexplained. Most visitors pass by without noticing. Those who notice read the label. Bronze object of unknown purpose, Mohenjo-Daro, circa 1900 BCE. There are other artifacts raising questions. Seals, hundreds found. Square, usually 2 by 2 centimeters, carved from steatite, soft stone easily worked. On one side, an image, animal, mythical creature, scene. On the other, inscription in Indus script. Images are surprisingly detailed. Bulls, elephants, rhinoceroses, tigers, each with individual features. Mythical creatures, unicorns, animals with multiple heads, hybrids. Scenes. A person sitting in meditative pose, surrounded by animals. A tree with figures on both sides, possibly deity or priestess. Struggle between man and beast. Seals were used for marking goods, sealing containers. Impression left on clay while soft. After drying, clay preserves the image. This confirms trade, administrative control, possibly property system. But some seals have images that don't fit trade or administrative context. One shows a figure sitting in lotus position, hands on knees, head crowned with horns, surrounded by animals. Elephant, tiger, rhinoceros, buffalo, 2 deer. The figure is male, with 3 faces, or a head turned in 3 directions. Archaeologists called this Pashupati, Lord of Beasts, Proto-Shiva. Connection with Hindu god Shiva, who is also depicted meditating, surrounded by animals, Lord of Nature. This suggests continuity of religious ideas from Indus civilization to later Hindu traditions. But there are details that don't fit. 3 faces, or heads, a rare motif in Hinduism. Shiva is sometimes depicted with 5 faces, but not 3. Horns, also unusual. Shiva isn't horned. This is more characteristic of other deities, Celtic, Scandinavian, where horns symbolize connection with nature, animal world, power. What if the image isn't Shiva, but someone or something else? A being whom Mohenjo-Daro's inhabitants worshipped or feared. A being with 3 heads, horns, power over animals. A description that could fit something non-human. Or, more prosaically, this is symbolic depiction. 3 faces represent 3 aspects of deity: creation, preservation, destruction.
Horns represent power, fertility. Animals represent nature, subordinate to deity, all metaphorical. But the ancients didn't always use metaphors as we do. Sometimes they depicted what they saw as far as they could convey in stone, clay. If they saw a being with multiple heads, they carved multiple heads. If they saw horns, they carved horns. We interpret as symbolism because the literal is impossible in our understanding. But what if for them, it was literal? There's another artifact from Mohenjo-Daro that deserves attention, but is rarely discussed in popular sources. In 1931, archaeologists found a small object resembling a lens, a disc of polished crystal, transparent, slightly convex on both sides, diameter about 3 centimeters. Polishing quality is surprising. Surface so smooth it barely distorts images. Modern opticians who studied the find confirmed this is a lens. Not perfect by modern standards. There are minor defects, air bubbles in material, slight distortion at edges. But functional. If held over text, letters magnify. If used to focus sunlight, can ignite fire in a few seconds. Purpose of this lens unknown. Official explanation: decoration. Possibly part of necklace or inlay on furniture. Crystal valued in antiquity for beauty, transparency. Used for amulets, decor. But the shape is specific. Biconvex, convex on both sides, characteristic precisely of optical lenses. If the purpose was decorative, easier to make flat disc or cabochon, convex on one side. Biconvex form more difficult to manufacture, requires more material, time. Why complicate if you don't need optical property? Alternative explanation: the lens was used for magnification. Ancient jewelers working with small details, engraving, might need magnifying glasses. Greeks and Romans, as known, used glass spheres filled with water for magnification. The Indus civilization could have similar practice. But there's a problem. Most Mohenjo-Daro artifacts don't show level of detail requiring magnification. Engravings on seals are detailed, but achievable without optical aids. Jewelry is fine, but again, not beyond capability of naked eye. Third possibility. The lens was used for observations. Astronomical, perhaps. Though one lens doesn't create a telescope, it can help better view the moon, stars, planets, or for observing distant objects on Earth, a primitive monocular. But again, no other evidence of astronomical activity in Mohenjo-Daro. No observatories, astronomical records, at least deciphered ones. A calendar certainly existed. All agricultural societies need one. But complex astronomy requiring optical instruments isn't confirmed. Fourth idea, more exotic. The lens was used in rituals. Focusing sunlight to kindle sacred fire. Many cultures have rituals involving fire considered sacred, needing pure, divine source of ignition. Using the sun, celestial fire, to ignite earthly fire is symbolic. Greeks had legend of Prometheus stealing fire from gods. Romans maintained eternal fire in Temple of Vesta, kindled only by sunlight through special mirror. Zoroastrians revere fire as manifestation of deity, maintain it in fire temples using only pure ignition sources. The Indus civilization could have similar beliefs. A lens focusing sunlight could be a sacred tool accessible only to priests. This explains manufacturing quality, material value, not a household item, but religious artifact. But the lens is singular. If this was important religious practice, where are other lenses? Maybe they existed, but didn't survive or weren't found. Maybe only one lens was needed, passed through generations, kept in a temple. There's another find related to possible advanced technology. In 1947, after India gained independence, a new wave of excavations began under leadership of Indian archaeologists. In one house, they found a small ceramic vessel, closed, sealed with wax. Inside, powder.
Grey, fine dispersed. At first thought it was ash, cremation remains. But analysis showed this isn't organic material. Mineral powder, mainly lead oxide with admixtures of other elements. Why store lead oxide in a sealed vessel? Lead known to humanity for thousands of years, used for making pipes, weights, cosmetics. Romans used lead pipes for plumbing, which, as we now know, led to chronic lead poisoning of population, possibly contributing to empire's fall. Egyptians used lead compounds for making cosmetics, especially kohl, eyeliner. The Indus civilization could use lead for similar purposes. But lead oxide in powder form, stored carefully, hints at something specific. Perhaps it was pigment. Lead oxide gives yellow or red color depending on oxidation, used in painting, ceramics. Or, more interesting, lead oxide was used in metallurgy. Adding it to the smelting process helps extract silver from lead ore, process called cupellation, known since antiquity. If the Indus civilization mined silver, and silver artifacts are found, they could use lead oxide in this process. But there's a third possibility, more exotic. Lead oxide was used in alchemy. Medieval alchemists experimented with lead, trying to turn it into gold. The Philosopher's Stone, legendary substance capable of transmuting metals, often associated with lead, sulfur, mercury. Of course, alchemy doesn't work in literal sense. Can't turn lead into gold by chemical methods. Requires nuclear reaction, changing atomic structure, which modern science can do in laboratories, but economically pointless.
But alchemists, experimenting, discovered many useful processes: distillation, crystallization, methods of purifying substances. What if the Indus civilization had its own version of alchemy? Not mystical, but practical. Experimenting with minerals, metals, substances to create new materials, medicines, dyes. Lead oxide, stored carefully, could be component of such work. Of course, this is speculation. Without written records, impossible to know what exactly they did. But finds hint at a level of knowledge not always recognized by official archaeology. Now let's return to the main question. What destroyed Mohenjo-Daro? We've considered natural explanations. All have gaps. Let's consider unnatural, but not fantastic. Human, but extreme. War. Not ordinary war with swords and arrows. War using weapons we don't associate with that era. Greek fire, for example, used in Byzantium in the 7th century CE. Mixture of petroleum, resin, other components that burned even on water, wasn't extinguished by water. Byzantines kept the formula secret. It was lost, never fully recovered. What if the Indus civilization had similar weapon? An incendiary mixture, burning with extreme temperature, melting stone, metal. Enemy army used it against Mohenjo-Daro. City burned, inhabitants perished. Temperature so high, earth fused. But Greek fire burned at around 1000 degrees. Not enough for melting earth to glass. Need temperature of 1500 to 2000 degrees. What could create that? Thermite. Modern mixture of aluminum powder and iron oxide. When ignited, reacts exothermically, producing molten iron and temperature around 2500 degrees. Used for welding rails, cutting steel, military purposes. But thermite requires aluminum. Aluminum doesn't occur in nature in pure form, only in compounds, bauxite ore. Extraction requires electrolysis, process discovered in 19th century. Before that, aluminum was rare, precious metal, more expensive than gold. The Indus civilization couldn't have aluminum in quantities needed for weapons, therefore, not thermite. But maybe another exothermic reaction. The ancients knew substances that burn bright, hot. Gunpowder, invented in China around 9th century CE, used for fireworks, then weapons. But gunpowder explodes, doesn't melt, creates pressure, destroys, but not extreme heat needed for melting earth. Something else needed. Nuclear reaction. We return to this idea because it explains everything. Instant death, extreme temperature, radiation, melted materials. But how? Official science says, impossible. Nuclear weapons require understanding of atomic physics, ability to enrich uranium or produce plutonium, engineering to create explosion mechanism. All this is achievement of 20th century. Before that, humanity had neither knowledge nor technology. But what if knowledge wasn't discovered anew in 20th century, but rediscovered? What if an ancient civilization, possibly not Indus but earlier, reached understanding of the atom, created weapons, used them, then destroyed themselves or were destroyed? Knowledge lost, technologies destroyed, humanity rolled back, started over. Through millennia, new civilization, 20th century, independently discovers same principles, creates same weapons. Cycle repeats. We're on threshold of same choice. Use or not use. Destroy ourselves or exercise restraint. If so, Mohenjo-Daro serves as warning. This is what happens when technology outpaces wisdom. This is the price of hubris, aggression, lack of restraint.
City wiped off face of earth. Population perished. Civilization collapsed, never recovered. Of course, this remains theory, unproven, unrefuted. But it explains facts better than any natural theory, and it's consistent with ancient texts describing similar events. The Mahabharata describes war between two groups of relatives, Pandavas and Kauravas. War lasts 18 days. Both sides use divine weapons, gifts of gods. Description of weapons is striking. Brahmastra, as mentioned, shines like 1,000 suns, incinerates armies, poisons earth. Pashupatastra, weapon of Shiva, never misses, destroys everything in radius of action. Vaishnavastra, weapon of Vishnu, summons winds, storms, destroys fortifications. Some researchers reading these descriptions see parallels with modern weapons. Brahmastra sounds like nuclear bomb. Pashupatastra like guided missile. Vaishnavastra like weapon using weather, climate weapon. Skeptics say this is poetic exaggeration. The ancients described ordinary battles but used metaphors, hyperbole to make stories more dramatic. When they say, shines like 1,000 suns, they don't mean literally. It's like saying, strong as a bull. No one thinks person literally possesses bull's strength. But some details are too specific. Description of symptoms in survivors after Brahmastra: hair loss, nails, vomiting, inability to eat. These aren't general symptoms of any catastrophe. This is specific to radiation poisoning. How did an author living thousands of years ago know these symptoms if never saw radiation? One possibility: the author recorded oral traditions transmitted from times of real event when people actually were exposed to something causing these symptoms. Through generations, details distorted, but core remained. And when texts were recorded, authors included these details, not fully understanding what they meant. Alternative: the authors were geniuses, foresaw future weapons through some intuition, predictive ability. Or, more prosaically, they were so talented at creating convincing descriptions, they accidentally created what sounds like nuclear weapons. Third possibility: texts edited later. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, after world learned of nuclear weapons, someone went back to ancient texts, added or changed descriptions to make them sound like nuclear explosions, created a forgery to support theory of ancient atomic wars. But manuscripts of Mahabharata exist dated long before 20th century. Oldest fragments date to 1st, 2nd centuries CE. Complete manuscripts, 11th, 15th centuries. All contain descriptions of Brahmastra and other weapons. Editing in 20th century impossible without leaving traces, which aren't there. Therefore, descriptions are authentic, recorded thousands of years ago, possibly based on events even more ancient. Which leaves the question, where did the knowledge come from? Maybe it's not knowledge, but imagination. People always fantasized about powerful weapons, ways to destroy enemies easily without risk to themselves. Divine weapons in myths reflect these fantasies, exaggerated to absurdity. But fantasies usually reflect technology level of the time. Greek myths describe heroes with swords, spears, shields. Medieval legends add knights, armor, siege machines. 19th century science fiction describes submarines, flying machines, electricity. Each era fantasizes based on what it knows. Descriptions in Mahabharata don't fit the technological context of recording time. They're too advanced, too specific, as if authors had access to knowledge they shouldn't have had. Either through oral tradition transmitting real events, or through something else.
There's a hypothesis voiced rarely, not because it's impossible, but because it's frightening. What if knowledge came not from the past, but from the future? Sounds absurd. Time flows in one direction. Cause precedes effect. No one can send information back in time. Physics forbids it. Causality violated. Paradoxes inevitable. But quantum mechanics allows strangeness. Entangled particles affect each other instantly, regardless of distance. Experiments show observation in present can change past of quantum system. Retrocausality. Effect precedes cause on quantum scale. Most physicists say, this isn't applicable to macroscopic world. People, books, knowledge don't obey quantum rules this way. But a minority isn't sure. Conduct experiments, seek loopholes, try to find ways around limitations. What if, in the distant future, humanity learned not to send matter or even energy back, but information, quantum encoded, transmitted through some fabric of space-time we don't yet understand? A message from future to past.
Why? Possibly warning. Future sees catastrophe, tries to change the past to prevent it. Or experiment. Test whether history can be changed. Or accident. Information leak through temporal anomaly. The ancients received these messages, don't understand the source, interpret as revelation from gods, spirits, higher powers, record as sacred texts, knowledge that shouldn't exist in their time but does, descriptions of technologies, weapons, events of the future that accidentally coincide with what will happen millennia later. Mohenjo-Daro, in this scenario, becomes a point of intersection. A city where knowledge from the future was applied, experimented with, tried to create something. Experiment went out of control. Catastrophe. City destroyed by the very weapon whose description came from the future. Closed time loop. Future creates its own past. Of course, this is pure speculation. No evidence of time loops, messages from future, quantum retrocausality on macroscopic scale. But can't disprove it either. And the idea explains why ancient texts contain knowledge they shouldn't have had. Let's leave this idea, return to something more grounded but no less disturbing. Archaeologists who worked in Mohenjo-Daro over decades note one strangeness that rarely makes it into publications: the atmosphere of the place. Many report feelings of discomfort, anxiety, inexplicable unease when working in certain sections of the city, especially near that square where Earth is fused. Skeptics explain this with psychological factors. Knowledge that thousands of people died here suddenly creates subconscious anxiety. Heat, isolation, heavy physical work intensify stress. People see what they expect to see, create stories to explain their feelings. But some accounts are more specific. Workers refuse to dig in certain places, say the earth is wrong, heavy, as if resisting tools. Tools break more often than they should. Electronics malfunctions. Compasses show incorrectly. Cameras give strange images. Light anomalies, shadows that shouldn't be there. Focus blurs without reason. One Italian geophysicist working there in the 1990s told in private conversation his equipment for measuring magnetic field gave unstable readings in the city center. Earth's magnetic field is relatively stable. Local anomalies occur, usually from deposits of magnetic minerals, iron ore. But here, anomalies aren't static. They change, sometimes strengthen, sometimes disappear. No pattern.
He suggested under the city lies something creating these fluctuations, possibly large amount of magnetized material subject to temperature changes affecting magnetic properties. But usually such effects are minimal, require significant temperature swings. Temperature underground is stable. He wanted to conduct deep scanning, ground-penetrating radar to see what's beneath the ruins. Pakistani authorities refused, said budget doesn't allow, priorities are elsewhere, maybe later. Later never happened. Project closed. Geophysicist returned home disappointed. What could he have found? Maybe nothing. Natural geological structures explaining anomalies. Maybe underground chambers not yet excavated containing metal objects. Maybe something unexpected. There's a hypothesis, never tested, that beneath Mohenjo-Daro exists an underground level. Many ancient cities built in layers, old city destroyed, new built on top. This is visible in archaeology, layers of ruins, one above another. In Mohenjo-Daro, there are layers too, minimum 7 levels of reconstruction identified. But maybe there are also intentional underground structures, tunnels, catacombs, vaults. Many civilizations built underground for protection from heat, enemies, for religious purposes. Egyptian tombs, Roman catacombs, underground cities of Cappadocia. The Indus civilization had advanced engineering knowledge. They built complex sewage systems, water management.
Logical to assume they could also build underground structures. But so far, none found in Mohenjo-Daro. Why? Maybe haven't searched enough. Excavations focused on surface layers, accessible structures. Digging deeper is expensive, risky. Water can fill excavations, walls can collapse. Modern methods like ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR, can show underground voids without physical excavation. But, as we saw, such research isn't always permitted. Or maybe underground structures exist but are filled. Collapsed during catastrophe, filled with soil, water, debris. Invisible to surface methods, require targeted search no one conducted. Third possibility. Underground structures existed but were intentionally destroyed. After catastrophe, survivors returned not to rebuild the city, but to destroy something. Seal, bury, ensure no one ever finds it. What could be so dangerous it required destruction even of ruins? Weapons, technology, knowledge. Something that led to catastrophe, and survivors decided it must not exist, must not be found by future generations. Destroyed, buried, imposed taboo. The place became cursed not by accident, but intentionally. A warning. Don't dig here. Don't search. Forget. Through millennia, taboo turned into superstition. People don't remember why the place is cursed, just know it is. Avoid it. Until 1922, when archaeologists ignore the warning, start digging. What did they find? Ruins, artifacts, evidence of advanced civilization. But also questions, mysteries, anomalies. Something that doesn't fit. And possibly, something we don't know about because it wasn't published, was classified, was lost. Archaeology isn't always transparent. Finds get lost, records disappear. Artifacts stored in museum basements, never displayed, not studied properly. Politics, funding, academic disputes affect what gets published, what remains hidden. Mohenjo-Daro is in Pakistan, a country with complicated history, conflicts, instability. Research interrupted, access limited. International teams come, but don't stay long. Local archaeologists do what they can, but resources are limited. And there's the question of preservation. Ruins are deteriorating. Salts rise from earth, destroy brick. Erosion, wind, rain, though rain is scarce. Tourists, though few, but each step wears down ancient structures. UNESCO recognized Mohenjo-Daro as World Heritage Site, but protection isn't enough. Experts warn without serious intervention, the city may disappear completely within 50 to 100 years. Bitter irony. The city survived 4,500 years buried under sand. Archaeologists excavated it, exposed it to the elements, and now it's deteriorating faster than ever. Maybe it should have been left hidden. Mystery untouched, warning unviolated. But human curiosity is irresistible. We dig, explore, seek answers even when answers frighten, even when questions are more dangerous than ignorance. Now, let's return to ancient texts. The Mahabharata isn't the only source. There are others, less known but no less intriguing. The Ramayana, the second great Indian epic, describes vimanas, flying machines. The hero, Rama, uses a vimana to return home after victory over the demon king Ravana. Description is detailed. A chariot flying through air, shining, capable of covering great distances quickly. Inside, rooms, decorations, space for passengers. More technical descriptions of vimanas are in the Vaimanika Shastra, a text claimed to have been recorded in early 20th century based on ancient manuscripts. The Vaimanika Shastra gives blueprints, dimensions, materials for building vimanas, describes different types, the atmospheric flight, for space flight, the underwater travel. Modern engineers studied the Vaimanika Shastra, tried building models. Results disappointing. Constructions described in text can't fly according to known laws of aerodynamics. Proportions wrong, engines impossible, materials unsuitable. Skeptics point out, the Vaimanika Shastra probably isn't an ancient text. It's a product of 20th century, possibly a forgery or fantasy written by enthusiasts trying to prove ancient India had advanced technologies. Text contains anachronisms, terms not found in Sanskrit literature until modern period. But supporters object. Even if the Vaimanika Shastra is modern, it could be based on fragments of real ancient knowledge. The author perhaps had access to lost manuscripts, tried to reconstruct, filled gaps with own interpretations. Result, inaccurate, but not completely fictional. Or another idea. Descriptions are symbolic. The manas aren't physical machines but metaphors for spiritual practices. Yoga, meditation can induce altered states of consciousness, sensations of flight, out-of-body experiences. Ancient yogis achieving such states described experiences as flights on celestial chariots. Through generations, descriptions became more literal, grew details, turned into technical texts. This explanation satisfies some, but it doesn't explain everything. Some descriptions too specific for metaphors. For example, mention of metals used in vimana construction. Alloys with specific properties, heat-resistant, light, strong. Names of metals don't always correspond to known ones, but description of properties matches modern materials like titanium alloys, aluminum. How did ancient authors know about properties of metals that would be discovered millennia later? Coincidence, lucky guess, or real knowledge transmitted through oral tradition, distorted but containing core of truth? There's another aspect rarely discussed. The Indus civilization traded over great distances. Artifacts from Mohenjo-Daro found in Mesopotamia, Mesopotamian goods found in Indus Valley. Trade routes passed through mountains, deserts, seas. This required navigational knowledge, cartography, possibly astronomy for orientation. What if trade was not just in goods, but in knowledge? Ideas, technologies, stories traveled with merchants. Mesopotamia had advanced mathematics, astronomy. Egypt had medicine, architecture, The Indus civilization had engineering, urban planning. Exchange of knowledge could accelerate development of all three, but also could lead to conflicts. If one civilization developed a weapon, others would want it to defend or attack. Arms race isn't an invention of 20th century. It's as old as human civilization. Tribe with bows dominates tribe with spears. People with bronze swords defeat people with stone axes. Each step forward in weapons technology changes balance of power. What if 4,500 years ago, there was an ancient arms race? Indus civilization, Mesopotamia, possibly Egypt, possibly others we don't know about, all seeking advantage, developing new weapons, testing, sometimes successfully, sometimes catastrophically. Mohenjo-Daro could be testing ground, or target, or accidental victim. Weapon developed for war, used, went out of control. City destroyed. Weapon creators horrified, realized they'd created something too destructive, destroyed records, banned further development. But memory remained, turned into legends. This scenario explains much. Sudden destruction of city, absence of subsequent attacks, collapse of entire civilization. As if everyone understood they'd gone too far, decided to stop. But it was too late. The system was already collapsing. There's another text deserving attention. The Samarangana Sutradhara, written by King Bhoja in 11th century CE, but claiming to compile more ancient knowledge. Text describes mechanical devices, robots, automata that can move, perform tasks without human intervention. Descriptions include wooden birds that can fly, mechanical servants bringing drinks, automaton guards standing at temple doors. Sounds like science fiction. But Greeks also had similar devices. Hero of Alexandria in 1st century CE created a steam engine, automatic doors for temples, mechanical theater with moving figurines. If Greeks of 1st century could create mechanical devices, why not Indians? And if Indians of 11th century wrote about them, compiling more ancient knowledge, perhaps such devices existed even earlier. The Indus civilization had craftsmen working with metal, wood, stone. They created detailed seals, jewelry, tools. Creating mechanical device requires same skills: precision, understanding of materials, patience, plus understanding of mechanics, levers, wheels, gears. Archaeologists haven't found mechanical devices in Mohenjo-Daro, but metal and wooden parts decay. Through millennia, nothing remains. Only stone and ceramic objects survive reliably. If mechanical devices existed, they disappeared, leaving only descriptions in texts. Or perhaps they were taken. If the city evacuated before or after catastrophe, survivors took valuable items. Mechanical devices, if valuable, rare, would be taken first. Only mass items remained: ceramics, seals, everyday tools. Fourth possibility: mechanical devices existed, but not in Mohenjo-Daro. In other cities of Indus civilization, not fully excavated, or excavated, but finds not published, stored in repositories, not identified correctly. Archaeology is vast. Millions of artifacts collected, but only a fraction studied in detail. Most lie in boxes, minimally cataloged, waiting for researchers, time, funding. Among them may be parts of mechanisms, unrecognized because no one expects to find them in such context. The Antikythera mechanism, ancient Greek device for calculating astronomical positions dating to 2nd–1st century BCE,
was found in 1901 in shipwreck debris. But its complexity wasn't fully understood until the 1970s, when X-ray studies revealed internal gears. Over 70 years, the device lay in a museum, partially understood, partially ignored. What else lies in museums? Misunderstood, unrecognized. How many artifacts from Mohenjo-Daro and other Indus sites await reassessment with modern methods? Let's move to the second hook, the moment that makes you think again. What if the catastrophe wasn't accidental? What if Mohenjo-Daro was destroyed, not by mistake, not as side effect of war, not by accidental explosion, but deliberately? Someone decided the city must be wiped off the face of the earth. Why? Perhaps Mohenjo-Daro was center of something dangerous, not just a city, a laboratory, place of experiments, technological, biological, energetic. Experiments went wrong, created a threat not just to the city, but to entire region, possibly the world. Authorities of that era, rulers, priests, whoever they were, made a decision. The city must be destroyed completely, immediately, before threat spreads. Applied most powerful weapon, not caring about inhabitants. Sacrifice necessary to save the rest. This explains absence of mass evacuation. If decision made quickly, secretly, inhabitants not warned, possibly even intentionally, so they wouldn't spread contamination, knowledge, something that should die with them. Cruel, yes, but history is full of examples when decisions made coldly, calculatedly, sacrificing few for the many. Quarantine during epidemics, cities burned to stop plague, sick left to die so as not to infect the healthy. If Mohenjo-Daro was source of threat that couldn't be controlled, destruction was logical choice. Terrible, but logical. What threat? Maybe biological? Experiment with diseases, attempt to create a weapon that went out of control. An epidemic that didn't kill instantly, but mutated quickly, spread unstoppably. Only way to stop: burn the source, kill all carriers, sterilize the area so intensely nothing survives. This explains extreme heat, biological agents destroyed by temperature. Spores, viruses, bacteria die at high temperature. If goal was sterilization, weapon chosen correctly. But could the ancients understand microbiology? Officially, no. Microorganisms discovered in 17th century with invention of microscope. Before that, disease theory was humoral, miasmatic, non-microbial. But the ancients knew empirically. Knew diseases spread through contact, that isolation helps, that fire purifies. Didn't understand mechanism, but observed effect. That's enough for making decisions. Or another threat, energetic. Experiment with power source that became unstable. An ancient reactor. Not nuclear in modern sense, but using principles we don't understand. Reactor overheating, threatening explosion that would destroy not just the city, but entire area. Only way to stop? Destroy reactor before explosion. Apply external impact, ultra-high temperature to melt, neutralize. City perished, but greater cataclysm prevented. This theory explains elevated radiation, not from weapon, but from reactor itself. Residual radiation after accident and destruction. Level decreased over millennia, but anomaly remained. Third variant of threat, informational. Knowledge that shouldn't spread. Mohenjo-Daro was center of learning, library, repository of texts. But some knowledge recognized as dangerous. Leadership, religious, political, decided this knowledge must be destroyed along with those who know it. This also happened in history. Burning of libraries. Library of Alexandria destroyed. Exact circumstances unclear, but result catastrophic for history of knowledge. Book burning in Nazi Germany, in China during Cultural Revolution. Knowledge destroyed when authorities considered it dangerous. If Mohenjo-Daro stored knowledge threatening power, religious orthodoxy, political stability, destruction was method of control. Barbaric, but effective. Of course, all this is speculation. No direct evidence of intentional destruction. But absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. If destruction was secret operation, records destroyed with the city. Survivors, if they knew, kept silent. Through generations, truth turned into myth. And here we are, 4,500 years later, trying to piece together fragments to understand what happened. Maybe we'll never know full truth. Maybe truth too terrible to accept. Maybe better to leave mystery unsolved. But let's try one more angle. Geology. The Indo region is geologically active. Earthquakes happen. Tectonic plates, Indian and Eurasian, collide, creating the Himalayas, Earth's highest mountain system. Process continues. India moves north at about 5 centimeters per year. Seems slow, but over millions of years, this creates mountains, faults, seismic activity. Could an earthquake create effects we see in Mohenjo-Daro? Standard seismology says no. Earthquakes destroy buildings, create cracks in earth, sometimes cause fires from destroyed hearths, lamps. But they don't melt earth. Temperature during earthquake doesn't rise to 1,500 degrees. However, there's a phenomenon, poorly studied, called seismic lights or earthquake lights. Earthquake witnesses sometimes report strange light phenomena, flashes, glow in air, fireballs. Phenomenon is rare, not fully understood. Theories include piezoelectric effect in quartz rocks, gas release from faults, electrical discharges from stress in Earth's crust. What if, 4,500 years ago, an unusual earthquake occurred? Mega earthquake, magnitude 8 or higher, with epicenter directly under Mohenjo-Daro. Such event would release colossal energy, maybe also create unusual electrical phenomena. Powerful discharges like lightning, but thousands of times stronger. Plasma balls rolling through streets, melting everything in path. Sounds fantastic, but nature is sometimes fantastic. Ball lightning exists, though mechanism of formation not fully understood. Witnesses describe glowing spheres floating in air, passing through walls, sometimes exploding. Scientific community long rejected them as hallucinations, optical illusions. Only in recent decades acknowledged reality of phenomenon, though explanation remains incomplete. What if earthquake under Mohenjo-Daro created multitude of such phenomena? Not small ball lightning, but huge plasma formations spawned by unprecedented energy release. They rolled through the city, instantly killing people, melting earth, brick, metal, then dissipated, leaving the city in ruins and mystery for millennia. This theory explains extreme temperatures, sudden death, melted materials, but it doesn't explain radiation. Earthquakes don't produce radioactive isotopes. Therefore, either radiation is natural, unrelated to catastrophe, or earthquake theory is insufficient. There's another geological possibility: volcanism. Not full volcano, but magma eruption from deep fault. Region not known for volcanic activity now, but geology changes. 4,500 years ago, a fissure could exist through which magma rose. Not eruption in classic sense, but sudden lava breakthrough directly under city or nearby. Magma has temperature around 1000 to 1200 degrees, enough to melt stone, metal, organics. If it broke through Earth in city center, effect would be catastrophic. Instant vaporization of everything at epicenter. Heat waves spreading outward, killing, melting. Then magma solidifies, covered by sediments. Through millennia looks like ordinary Earth, only with anomalous structure. But geological studies don't show magmatic rocks in Mohenjo-Daro. Earth is mostly sedimentary, silt, sand, clay. No basalt, obsidian, other volcanic rocks. Therefore, volcanism unlikely. Unless magma didn't reach surface, rose close, heated Earth from below to extreme temperatures, caused surface effects, but itself didn't emerge. Cooled at depth, now hidden under city. This would explain anomalies in magnetic field the geophysicist discovered. Cooled magma contains magnetic minerals, creates local anomalies. Testing this theory, possible only with deep drilling or seismic scanning. But, as we know, such research hasn't been conducted. Perhaps they fear what they'll find. Perhaps simply no interest, no funding. Mohenjo-Daro is archaeological site, not geological. Priorities lie in excavating ruins, not studying what's beneath them. But maybe this is a mistake. Maybe the answer lies not in ruins on surface, but deep below, in what's hidden by kilometers of rock and time. Let's now consider human factor in more detail. Not technologies, not weapons, but social structures, culture, psychology. The Indus civilization was egalitarian, at least so it seems. Houses approximately same size, no palaces, obvious temples, monumental tombs. In Egypt, pyramids dominate, show pharaoh's power. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats, kings' palaces. Here, nothing similar. This is interpreted as sign of society without strong hierarchy, possibly governed by council, collective, not single ruler. Or perhaps elite existed, but didn't demonstrate power through architecture, lived modestly, at least outwardly. Power exercised through other mechanisms, religion, trade, control of resources. But absence of obvious hierarchy doesn't mean absence of conflicts. Egalitarian societies also have tensions, disputes, struggles for influence. Possibly even more acute because there's no established structure for resolving conflicts. Each dispute can escalate into crisis. What if Mohenjo-Daro fell not from external threat, but internal? Civil war, uprising, conflict between factions. One group used extreme measures to destroy another. City became battlefield where both sides perished. But no archaeological evidence of mass violence. No skeletons with weapon wounds, no destroyed barricades, burned districts, except that strange square. If there was war, it was very specific, short, decisive, without prolonged siege or street fighting. Or perhaps conflict wasn't physical, but ideological. Religious schism. Two groups with incompatible beliefs. One considered the other heretics, dangerous to society's spiritual health. Conflict escalated not to war with weapons, but to something worse. Mass suicide. Collective ritual where all participants perished. History knows examples of mass suicides. Masada, fortress where Jewish defenders killed themselves rather than surrender to Romans. Jonestown, where over 900 cult members drank poisoned beverage on leader's order. If Mohenjo-Daro had similar cult, fanatic leadership, mass ritual possible. But 4,500 years ago, human psychology doesn't change. Fanaticism, charisma, group pressure, all existed then. If a leader convinced followers the world was ending, that salvation comes through death, that gods demand sacrifice, people could comply. But how does mass suicide create melted earth? Ritual fires set city ablaze, everyone enters flames? Possibly. But bonfire temperature insufficient. Even burning houses, all wood, coal, oil, temperature won't reach 1,500 degrees needed for melting earth. Unless ritual included something else. Substances, chemical compounds burning with extreme heat. The ancients knew about thermite. Unlikely. But could know other exothermic reactions. Sulfur, pitch, saltpeter, all burn bright, hot. Right mixture can create hellfire. If ritual was planned, prepared, substances gathered, placed in square center, then ignited when all gathered, result could be catastrophic. Explosion. Fire wave killing instantly. Temperature locally extreme, melting earth. This explains limited melting area. Not whole city, only central square. Remaining inhabitants not participating in ritual fled, but many didn't make it. Died from heat, smoke, shock. Disturbing theory, but not impossible. Religious extremism led to terrible things throughout history. No reason to think antiquity was exception. Now, let's return to the Mahabharata with new perspective, not as myth, not as history, but as encoded message. Epics are often multi-layered, surface level, adventure story, battles, heroes, villains. Deeper, moral lessons, philosophy, religious teachings. Even deeper, possibly historical memories, encrypted, disguised by poetic language. What if the Mahabharata isn't description of literal events, but allegorical map? Battles represent not physical wars, but conflicts of ideas, technologies, forces of nature. Heroes aren't real people, but personifications of principles, groups, concepts. Brahmastra in this reading isn't nuclear weapon, but symbol of destructive force, uncontrolled knowledge. Knowledge is dangerous, can create, can destroy. Used wisely, it's blessing. Used foolishly or maliciously, catastrophe. The Mahabharata then becomes warning. Be careful with what you know. Be careful with what you do. Consequences can be terrible. Cities can fall. Civilizations can vanish. Earth can become barren for generations. Such reading is less literal, but perhaps deeper. Instead of searching for physical vimanas and nuclear bombs in antiquity, we seek meaning. The lesson the ancients tried to transmit. Lesson we perhaps still haven't learned. The 20th century showed humanity capable of creating weapons destroying cities instantly. Hiroshima, Nagasaki. Hundreds of thousands perished in seconds. Survivors suffered for decades, Earth contaminated. And that was only small part of arsenal. Cold War created tens of thousands of warheads capable of destroying civilization many times over. We stood at the edge. Cuban Missile Crisis, when decisions of few people determined fate of billions. We stepped back that time, but threat remains. Nuclear weapons exist. Knowledge isn't forgotten. Pandora opened the box. Can't close it. The Mahabharata perhaps tells us, This happened before. Not in same form, but essence the same. Humanity reached point where it could destroy itself. Did it? Fell. Survivors started again. Recorded warning informed that would survive millennia. Epic, sacred text, transmitted orally, then in writing, hoping future generations would understand, wouldn't repeat the mistake. We didn't understand. Or if we did, not enough. We created same weapons again, stand at same abyss. Maybe Mohenjo-Daro isn't just archaeological curiosity. It's a mirror showing us our possible future. Ruins, silence, mystery for archaeologists of next civilization, if it arises. There's another detail we haven't considered. Water. Mohenjo-Daro is in Indus Valley. Indus River was civilization's lifeline. Provided water for drinking, irrigation, transport. Cities built along it depended on it. But rivers aren't constant. Indus changed course multiple times in history. Floods, droughts, seismic activity cause changes. Course shifts. Old cities left without water. New ones built closer to new course. Geological studies show, around time of Indus civilization collapse, Indus indeed changed course. Not catastrophically, not instantly, but gradually. Over decades, maybe a century. Cities depending on river suffered. Agriculture degraded. Trade hampered. Population migrated. This explains collapse of civilization overall. But does it explain sudden death of Mohenjo-Daro? Water shortage kills slowly, not instantly. People get sick, weaken, die. Bodies emaciated, signs of malnutrition, disease. Here, that's absent. Unless course change caused something else. Sudden catastrophic flood. Dam, natural or man-made, burst. Wave of water crashed on city, swept away, drowned inhabitants, then receded, leaving bodies on streets. But topography again doesn't support. City on elevation. Water should have receded quickly, carried bodies away, sediments, left layer of silt. That's absent. Bodies in place, in poses speaking not of drowning, but instant death from something else. Maybe not water, but steam. What if underground water source, river, lake, aquifer, suddenly heated? Geothermal activity. Magma rose claws. Water turned to steam under pressure, broke through surface through cracks in earth. Geyser, but not small. Huge. Superheated steam, temperature above 100 degrees, kills instantly. Ancient Pompeii in some sense. Vesuvius erupted. It wasn't lava that killed Pompeii's inhabitants, but pyroclastic flow. Mixture of gas, ash, temperature several hundred degrees. People died instantly, bodies charred, then covered with ash, preserved as casts. If Mohenjo-Daro experienced similar, but source wasn't volcano but geothermal breakthrough, effect could be similar. Superheated steam, possibly with mineral particles, rolled through city, killed inhabitants, heated earth, then dissipated, leaving bodies, damaged structures. Mystery. This theory explains extreme temperature, instant death. Doesn't explain radiation if it's there. Geothermal sources sometimes contain radioactive elements, radon, uranium dissolved in water. If source under Mohenjo-Daro was such, residual radiation possible. Levels low, but anomalous. Can verify. Search for underground water sources. Analyze for radioactive elements. study geology for signs of past geothermal activity. But again, such research hasn't been conducted systematically. Mohenjo-Daro remains insufficiently studied from geological standpoint. Let's now talk about what we don't find in Mohenjo-Daro. Absence of evidence is sometimes as informative as presence. No weapons. Minimal. Few knives, axes that could be tools, not necessarily weapons. No swords, spears, bows, arrows in significant quantities. No fortifications, defensive walls around city. In Mesopotamia, cities are walled. In Europe of that time, settlements often fortified. Here, nothing. This is interpreted as sign of peaceful society. Indus civilization not warlike, trade not war, cooperation not conflict. Idealized picture. But realistic? Human nature includes aggression, competition. Even peaceful societies have conflicts, internal and external.
Absence of weapons and fortifications may mean not absence of war, but different form of defense. Maybe weapons existed, but didn't survive. Wood, leather, decay. If bows, spears were wooden, through millennia, nothing remains. Only stone and metal objects survive. Or maybe weapons and fortifications weren't needed, not because no threats, but because defense was different. Diplomacy, alliances, trade ties created network of mutual interests. Attack on Mohenjo-Daro meant attack on trade partners, leading to economic isolation of aggressor. Mutually assured destruction ensured. Ancient version of MAD. Or defense was technological. Not walls, but something else. Warning systems, traps, devices we don't recognize in archaeological finds. Sounds fantastic. But why not? If they had advanced engineering for water, sewage, why not for defense? Third possibility. Defense was unnecessary because Mohenjo-Daro was neutral zone, sacred place recognized by all surrounding cultures. Attack on it was taboo, violation that would bring wrath of gods, economic sanctions, collective retaliation. History knows examples. Delphi in Greece, place of oracle, respected even during wars. Mecca in pre-Islamic Arabia was neutral zone certain months of year. If Mohenjo-Daro was such place, weapons and fortifications not needed. Protection ideological, religious, not physical. But something violated protection. Taboo was broken. City destroyed. By whom? Those who didn't respect taboo. Or by catastrophe, recognizing no human conventions. Nature, gods, aliens, whoever was responsible, they didn't care about cities' status. Another detail. Seals and trade. The Indus civilization traded widely. Artifacts found in Mesopotamia, Persian Gulf, Oman. Mesopotamian texts mention land of Meluha, which researchers identify with Indus civilization. Trade conducted in lapis lazuli, shells, beads, textiles, food. Seals used for marking goods, confirming origin, quality. Merchant from Mohenjo-Daro ships goods to Ur. Goods sealed with his seal. Buyer in Ur sees seal, knows goods authentic from reliable supplier. System requires trust, standardization, possibly guilds or organizations controlling quality. Indus civilization had all this. Standardized weights, measures found throughout region. Cubic weights, precise, used for weighing goods. System decimal or binary, accurate. This standardization indicates centralized management, or at least widely accepted rules. Without central authority enforcing standards, each city would use own measures. Trade becomes chaotic, trust undermined. But if there was central authority, where was it located? Mohenjo-Daro, largest city, logical candidate. Or Harappa, another major city in north. Or power was distributed, networked. Council of city representatives meeting periodically, making decisions by consensus. Such system complex, requires communication, trust, mechanisms for resolving disputes. But it works. The Hanseatic League, medieval trade league of cities, functioned similarly for centuries. If Indus civilization had similar system, collapse of one city shouldn't destroy entire civilization. Other cities continue. Network adapts. But that didn't happen. Mohenjo-Daro fell, and entire civilization collapsed around same time. Why? Maybe Mohenjo-Daro wasn't just one of cities, but key node. Financial center, religious capital, place where decisions made. Its destruction paralyzed system. Other cities, not knowing what to do, whom to trust, disintegrated. Or maybe catastrophe wasn't local. Mohenjo-Daro may be most dramatic example, but other cities also suffered. Epidemic, climate change, series of earthquakes, invasion, multiple factors acting simultaneously or sequentially, undermining civilization to point of collapse. Archaeology shows many Indus cities were abandoned around same time. Not all instantly like Mohenjo-Daro, but gradually. Over several centuries, people left, migrated east to Ganges Valley, started new life. Old cities forgotten, but memory of catastrophe remained, turned into legends. Wars of gods, cities destroyed by fire from sky, cursed places where nothing grows, where spirits wander. Through millennia, these stories recorded in epics we read now, trying to understand what's truth, what's fiction. Let's now bring everything together. All theories, facts, speculations. Try to see whole picture. 4,500 years ago existed a civilization, advanced, organized, stretching across vast territory. Cities with populations of tens of thousands. Engineering medieval Europe could envy. Trade connecting 3 continents. Writing we can't read. Culture we understand only fragmentarily. This civilization flourished for 1,000 years, maybe longer. Then, suddenly or gradually, opinions differ, it vanished. Cities abandoned, writing forgotten, population scattered. After 1,000 years, new culture arose on same land, but connection with predecessors unclear. Mohenjo-Daro was one of cities of this civilization, possibly most important, possibly just one of many. It died suddenly. This is visible in archaeology. No gradual decline, evacuation, organized abandonment. City functioned, then emptied. Between these states, catastrophe. What catastrophe? We considered many theories. Natural, earthquake, flood, drought, epidemic, geothermal breakthrough, climate change. Human, war, invasion, civil conflict, mass suicide. Technological, nuclear weapons ancient or transmitted from future, experiment out of control, intentional destruction. Non-human, alien intervention, divine punishment. Each theory has supporters and critics. Each explains some facts, doesn't explain others.
None is perfect. Maybe truth is combination. Not one cause, but chain of events. Climate changing, making life harder. Trade disrupted, tensions rising, conflicts arising. Someone used weapon, ordinary or exotic. City struck. This became last straw. Civilization already weakened, collapsed. Or maybe we're asking wrong question. We ask, what destroyed Mohenjo-Daro? Maybe need to ask, what Mohenjo-Daro is trying to tell us. Imagine survivors after catastrophe. They saw city where they were born turn to ruins in moments. Friends, families perished. Everything they knew destroyed. They flee, find other communities, start over. But memory remains. Trauma of such scale isn't forgotten. They tell children. Children tell their children. Story transmitted orally through generations. Details change, distort, dramatize, but essence remains. There was a city, great and powerful. People there became proud, forgot gods, or used forbidden knowledge, or committed sin we don't remember. And gods, or enemies, or earth itself punished them. Fire fell from sky, earth split. All died instantly. City became cursed. Never go there. Through millennia, this story weaves into epics, becomes part of religion, culture. The Mahabharata, Ramayana include descriptions that may be echoes of real events, refracted through prism of time and myth. If so, message is clear. Be careful. Knowledge is power, but also danger. Technology is blessing, but also curse. Hubris leads to fall. Boundaries exist not by accident. This message is universal. Every culture has myths of fallen civilizations. Atlantis in Greek tradition, Sodom and Gomorrah in Judeo-Christian, Lemuria, Mu in others. All describe civilizations that reached too high, fell too hard. Maybe all these stories have a common root, not one specific event, but pattern. Civilizations rise, peak, destroy themselves. The cycle repeats. We stand now at our own peak. Technologies we possess could rebuild the world or destroy it completely. Nuclear arsenals, climate change, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering. Each is tool, each is weapon. Depends on how we use them. Mohenjo-Daro is reminder. 4,500 years ago, someone or something made a choice. Results we see in ruins. Melted earth, scattered bones, silence for millennia. Warning carved not in stone, but in absence, in questions that have no answers. Maybe we'll never know exactly what happened. Maybe that's not important. Important is that we ask, that we look at ruins and think, could this be us? Our cities, our civilization, reduced to mystery for future archaeologists? We have an advantage the Indus civilization possibly lacked. We have history. We can look back, see patterns, learn. We have global communication, ability to cooperate across borders, share knowledge, warn each other. But we also have the same weaknesses: hubris, greed, short-term thinking, tribalism. We know dangers, but knowing isn't enough. Must act, must choose wisely. Mohenjo-Daro stands silent under desert sun. Tourists walk through ruins, take photos, move on. Archaeologists dig carefully, measure, catalog, publish papers. Wind blows dust over ancient bricks. The Indus flows kilometers away, following new course. City is dying again. Salt, erosion, time. In a century, maybe less,
Nothing will remain but rubble, unrecognizable. Mystery will deepen. Unless we preserve, study, understand. But perhaps some mysteries are meant to stay unsolved. Perhaps Mohenjo-Daro's purpose isn't to give answers, but to make us ask questions about ourselves, our choices, our future. 4,500 years from now, will someone stand in ruins of our cities, wondering what happened, what destroyed us, what we were trying to achieve, what warnings we left? Or will we learn, break the cycle, choose differently? The mound of the dead watches, waits, remembers something we've forgotten. Maybe it's time we remembered too. Good night.